Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
And we have, I don't know if it's breaking news anymore, but breaking since the last time we congregated for a podcast. Anthony Barr is back, gentlemen. Anthony Barr, former 9th overall pick by the Vikings, 2014 draft, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
I think so.
Zim's first pick, right?
Yes, that's right.
And the last top 10 pick the Vikings have had. I don't think they've had a top 10 pick since him.
I believe you're correct.
Wow. Just drafting in no man's land almost every year.
12 to 24. Something in that realm every time.
Yeah. One year they were later in the first round because they went to the NFC Championship game.
That's right.
No, you're right, though.
Mike Hughes,
And Zim's last 2 years, they looked, at least in one of them, like they were surefire top 10 pick, and then made the mistake of getting hot. And Mike Hughes was taken instead of Lamar Jackson.
Oh, we could play that game up and down Vikings draft
That's
history
a fun one.
all day long.
That's a fun one because our colleague at the time, Matthew Collar, made a passionate plea for them to take Lamar and was dead on accurate.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like people deemed it a risk, right? Oh, but this team is ready to win. You can't draft a rookie quarterback. Like, well, they signed Kirk Cousins and then they missed the playoffs the next year and only have made the playoffs twice, I think, in that era. So. But we're going to talk defense here, largely the first chunk of this episode. We'll have Judd guess the PFF grades. We've got a pigskin pecking order. We'll see if the Vikings can finally crack the top 10 NFL teams. According to us, Purple Daily presented by Quick Trip. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. And it looks a lot more likely now than it did like a month and a half ago. Before we get started with the show here, boys, all week long. So it's Give to the Max Day this Thursday. And here at Score North and on Purple Daily, we are throwing our support behind secondhand hounds. We're all dog lovers here. You guys know our dogs. The Vinster, Maya. We got Stella. Look at the Vinster, little proper boy. His little paws crossed. So Secondhand Hounds is a nonprofit animal rescue based in Minnesota that provides safe shelter for all of our furry friends that need safe shelter. And there's so many different ways that a dog could wind up at Secondhand Hounds. It could be that they're in a bad situation. It could be that, it sounds terrible, but that their owners passed away. Proper veterinary care is provided. Daily necessities for animals at risk, all while working to find each a permanent replacement and loving home. So Secondhand Hounds, we're raising money all week. You guys helped us raise $500 yesterday already, so thank you. ScoreNorth.com/donate. That's scorenorth.com/donate. If you've got $5 or $500, whatever you feel comfortable with, we would appreciate it. And our friends at Nutrisource will be matching up to $1,000 raised in this drive to raise some money. So
awesome.
Anthony Barr, boys, 31 years old now. He's been a free agent all year after departing Dallas after the 2022 season, just kind of waiting for the right opportunity. And last year, PFF had him as a below-average linebacker. He only had 45 pass rushing snaps, so much more of a traditional linebacker role, which is probably what he would play here. Doogie was telling us it's not like an urgent thing where he plays on Sunday, but he's signed to the practice squad is what it sounds like, right?
Right.
So he's in the building. He's going to be around. He's going to be available. Ivan Pace is going to get the green dot. But what do you guys make of this? Anthony Barr coming in. Jordan Hicks has been excellent in Brian Flores' system. He was hospitalized with compartment syndrome in his right leg and underwent a procedure, so he's clearly not coming back this week, maybe the week after. We'll see what his status is. But what are you feeling? Anthony Barr back in the house.
Well, I was really surprised at first. I'm like, that's a blast from the past that I didn't expect. I thought he was basically on track to retire because he hadn't played after playing for the Cowboys last season. But you know what? Here's the thing. Brian Flores has done such a good job. I am very curious if Barr does get promoted to the 53 and if he does play, what type of chip he will be used as. So, I don't expect him. Barr in his prime, I think we all agreed. We were always surprised that he was not allowed to actually rush the quarterback more, but in his prime was a damn good player. And the one thing that Harrison Smith always talked about extensively was how smart Barr was. Like, he was just an incredibly intelligent player. He was responsible for positioning a lot of guys. And I mean, back when Zim's defense was good, not the last 2 years of suspect defenses. So I think that the learning curve here, while it's a different defense than Mike ran for sure, the learning curve probably won't be as steep because of Barr's savviness and the fact he's been around. And again, I'll go back to Brian Flores has done such a good job that I believe before we scoff at this and like, oh, he's not going to play, or oh, he's old now, which, okay, yeah. I think we need to give Flores the benefit of the doubt that if they signed this guy, that there might be a role. I also, back to your point on Hicks, who was shocked, and I'm shocked. I thought this guy was not a bust, but I mean, he certainly in the Donatel defense was one of many players who didn't benefit. I mean, Jordan Hicks has become in my opinion, the key linebacker on this team and has played really well, and he's instrumental. But I got to think that he's out through at least the bye. So I would not assume that Barr won't have some type of role. I guess the question is, does Troy Dye play more or Barr? But I think that this could have some positive short-term plug-and-play upside that at least the Vikings want to toy with.
Yeah,
feels like the expression, absence makes the heart grow fonder. I feel like that's kind of the thing with Anthony Barr. Like, people were always confused when he was here that he should be rushing the passer more, and he dropped into coverage a lot. I know there was the one play against the Rams, Zim's first year, Thursday night, where he just got absolutely torched and burned. And there was like some of those plays that just stand out. And then there's also plays with him, where he sacks Aaron Rodgers, breaks his collarbone, and then Packer fans get, absurdly upset with him over a pretty routine tackle. And that's a different story. But I think
they're mad because it wasn't a sack. It was Rodgers threw the ball and Barr came in late. That's what the controversy.
Put his weight on him, which caused the no weight rule.
Yeah, they're still wrong about it, but yeah.
You are still wrong. You're not correct on it. But I think as a whole, like Anthony Barr, I think we'll remember him more as a really, really good player, not a what if. Why wasn't he used like this type of player? And right now he's basically an insurance policy, right? Like, you just lost Jordan Hicks, who's been a really good player for you. You're down a linebacker. You don't really have a lot of impact players on there. So, I mean, will he even be active on Sunday? Like, we'll see. I'm going to assume probably not. I don't know. Maybe he'll be promoted by then. But I am curious how he fits into this system because, Brian Flores has done a really damn good job. The Vikings have had one of the best defenses in the NFL over this win streak. So you got to give him the benefit of the doubt that he might be able to utilize him.
Yeah, it's interesting because like throughout his career, we've like as fans, like Declan said, we've all thought, man, this dude, he's 6'5", is 6'5", like 235-pound, whatever he weighs, absolute specimen. Wouldn't that be interesting? Going at the quarterback more often. And he always, under Mike Zimmer, I think he always rushed the passer maybe more than we gave credit. It was like he had like 100 pass rushing snaps several years in a row under Mike Zimmer. He only had 43 in Dallas last year, and he played like most of the season. He got hurt. He missed a few weeks late with an injury. But Jordan Hicks, on the other hand, kind of to what Judd was saying, Jordan Hicks has been resurgent this year. It's the best season he's had, according to Pro Football Focus, since 2018 in Philadelphia. Barr and Hicks are the exact same age. They're like 3 months separated. They're both 31 years old. So I think you're going to see what it looks like with Ivan Pace and with Troy Dye. But Anthony Barr as like a last hurrah for his career in a system that's really interesting. I'm intrigued. I'd like to see him get into a game and just see what Brian Flores can do using him as a chess piece. But make no mistake, Jordan Hicks is a huge reason why this run defense has been one of the best in the NFL over the last like 2 months, month and a half or so.
And that's where I think to talk some football X's and O's.
Let's dive in. Yes.
Football.
Yes.
I think that's where there has to be some concern. Ivan Pace is a great story, but he is not necessarily a run stuffer type of player. And so the job that Jordan Hicks has done there has been extremely impressive. But I think that the Vikings, who, use one linebacker now quite a bit, are probably going to be trying to mix and match things. So Dye could play some, Pace will play probably substantially. But again, I don't see him as a guy who's going to step up in the A gap and stuff the run on a consistent basis.
Football.
And so does Barr become that guy if Dye can't be the interesting thing, and this is probably past its shelf life of possibility though. The interesting thing is when Barr got drafted and you saw him as a young player who had a ton of potential, high first round pick, you looked at him and said, and I think Phil, we actually had these discussions, Jason Taylor. Like he profiles like Jason Taylor did. The difference was Mike ran a 4.3, not a 3.4. Well, now he's in a 3.4. So do you get creative there potentially?
Yeah.
Probably not. But anyway, I think there's possibilities here. And I do think that whatever Brian Flores is comfortable doing, you have to defer to him until he proves he's not effective. And Brian Flores has been incredibly effective. So I think this opens up possibilities. But the run stuffing thing is my question, because after the Philadelphia game, I mean, this team has done, I think, an amazingly good job for the most part against the run. And I thought that was going to be a huge weakness throughout the entire season, not just in a couple of games.
Yep. And just for reference too here, so Jordan Hicks, he had, let's do the math here, 93 pass rushing snaps. So he was sent on 93 blitzes essentially. And he had 600. So about 1 in every 6 defensive snaps, including all plays, Jordan Hicks rushes the passer. Not great. He only has 9 pressures in those 93 pass rushing snaps. I would be curious to see, and I know he's 31. There's a reason why he's not with a team. Anthony Barr, 6'5", hands in the air, athleticism, deployed on those same plays. What could that look like? Mm-hmm. So maybe he's not a guy that takes all of the snaps, but maybe he mixes in some certain formations. Say, hey, it's third down. Anthony Barr, go get him, man. We're going to put you right up the A gap. Get in there and make someone's life miserable.
And worst case, it doesn't work.
Yeah. I got some fun facts about Brian Flores' defense, too. If yesterday's episode, our live stream, wasn't enough lauding of Brian Flores, where I stumped for him to be just the straight-up coach of the year in the NFL. Yeah. Our guy Kevin Seifert from ESPN.com, your former colleague at the Star Tribune, pulled some stats here. Vikings started 0-3. Since the 0-3 start, their defense has ranked 4th in points allowed per game, 5th in defensive efficiency, 5th in defensive EPA, which is expected points added, tied for 5th in takeaways, and 7th in yards per game. So after the bad start, 0-3. Mm-hmm. And they've played some tough teams over that stretch, too. Like the Chiefs are in that mix. The 49ers, although without Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams. We're seeing what they look like as a full squad. But by most measurements, since the 4th week of the season, this has been a top 5 defense in the NFL. Isn't that crazy?
Absolutely. I mean, if you recall our discussions going into the season, we basically all said, if they can just be mid-pack, Brian Flores will have done a great job. Mm-hmm. Mid-pack. And I got to admit, I like their chances against the Broncos and a Russell Wilson who looks nothing like the guy we saw for years who gave the Vikings nightmares in Seattle.
Denver's not good. I don't care that they've won some games recently. Watch that team play. It's not good. Well, I know they won last night, but yeah.
Russell Wilson would have been the previous version would have been a nightmare, right? Because he's the exact type of guy who would have looked at a Flores blitz while in Seattle and escaped it and made a play. But he doesn't have that now. Like he tries, but he doesn't have that now. And so I like the Vikings' chances because the one thing that, again, I keep coming back to it. I firmly believe, and I'm shocked to say this, but I firmly believe that the defense has become the backbone of this team. I think it's the stabilizer. And the fact that Flores mixes things up, he basically does what the Patriots did offensively for years. And I'm sure it comes from his time with Belichick when Bill had his fastball. Mm-hmm. But, Bill Belichick, there was never a way to describe the offense. It was basically what they called a game plan offense, which meant we're going to just game plan for our opponent. Mm-hmm. And then they can try and stop what we come up with. It wasn't the West Coast. It wasn't this or that. And I really think what we've seen from Flores is exactly that. He game plans it, which to your point, Phil, to go back to his introductory press conference when Joe Schmidt said 3-4 or 4-3, he's like, tell me the opponent. So like, that's the most impressive thing. But like the Broncos are not going to get what the Saints got. It's going to be different.
He game plans it, but with some principles that are always in play, right? Like he's going to bring pressure. He's going to have 3 safeties on the field a lot. And I'll give you a couple other fun facts. It was fun going through this morning here. Just so 50% blitz rate, even after not blitzing as much in that last game, a 50% blitz rate, which is the second highest blitz rate in the league. The New York Giants with Wink Martindale have the second highest blitz rate. It's 41% to the Vikings 50%.
He's on the way out.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
I don't think he and Brian Dable are getting along too well.
Were they like fighting on the sidelines?
Yeah, they were having long conversations. Yeah, that's a mess. But yeah, Wink. I think Wink is a very big shelf life guy.
Yeah, but I think they would prefer the Vikings to blitz a lot less. But really, I know Wanham's had a nice stretch, and he's got 6 sacks on the season. But Wanham only has 24 pressures all year, so he's averaging like 2 pressures a game. Danielle Hunter's the only guy that gets organic pressure without dialing up a blitz or something. In fact, the guy with the 3rd most pressures on the team, Josh Metellus. So they've had to dial up any pressure that they're getting. So it's a credit to Flores. I think in a perfect world, you'd have another guy alongside Danielle Hunter, a 1st-round pick that you find, or Davenport stays healthy, right?
Yeah.
And you could just have those guys get after it with a 3 or 4 man rush.
Yep.
On the Josh Metellus note, Metellus and Harrison Smith have been deployed on more safety blitzes by far than any other safety in the NFL. So
football.
Those guys have combined for 125 safety blitzes this year in 10 games.
And in the case of Harrison Smith, he didn't blitz last year. He was anchored.
Barely, yeah.
He was anchored back. But this is why, again, I will reaffirm my desire for this to be called the 44 defense. It's Josh Metellus is the linchpin. And the thing about it is Metellus is so smart. Metellus' smarts are as important or more important than his athletic ability. I'm telling you. The fact that he knows every role out there, and the fact that he basically is playing a hybrid position of which is not named right now, is the absolute key. The other thing the Vikings have gotten good at, and I think it was, on the extended drive, on the Eagles' extended drive in which they ran constantly, it was exposed. But beyond that, I think it's been pretty successful, is the no down lineman defense. So you'll see lots of times the Vikings will basically bring on an all rushing defense. It's not that these guys are that good. It's that you don't know from an offensive standpoint where the pressure. Now you have to account
scheme sacks, if you will,
and you have to account for 99 for sure. But other than that, you don't know where guys are coming from, and some guys will drop back into coverage. And so I think it's it's exactly what O'Connell said in his opening press conference about the offense perfected the illusion of complexity.
Yeah, it is the ultimate. Like the defense it's 3 hours of, I can't remember which color commentator said this. I think it was Troy Aikman actually, when the Vikings were playing the Niners on Monday Night Football. And Aikman said, it's not that it's the most effective defensive front or the most, they're certainly not the best defense. They're not getting the most sacks.
Right.
But what they're making you do is just think exhaustively for 3 hours, right? It's just, God, if you're a quarterback, you're up there, especially if you're a young quarterback and you're not fully used to all these looks and deciphering everything. If you're a Brock Purdy and whoever else, it's like for 3 hours, for like 65 or 70 snaps, you're just staring at 7, 8 guys up on the line. Okay. And it's funny because like sometimes a blitz is classified as sending an extra. So if you send 4, technically it's not a blitz, right? I'm sure different sites have it differently, but if you line up 8 guys at the line of scrimmage,
right,
and 4 of them drop back into coverage, but one of them is a defensive tackle dropping back, and the other one, and it's like a safety replaces him. It might not be classified as a blitz, but as an offensive lineman, you're trying to figure out, oh, okay, he's dropping, And sometimes, like Boone has showed us this too. We're getting really in the weeds. I love this. What'll happen is the Vikings will show a blitz where like a Jordan Hicks or a Harrison Smith will take 2 aggressive steps into a guard. And that offensive guard has to respect that guy's coming. Like you have to account for that guy. You can't just be like, I think he's bluffing, I'm not going to account for him. If that guy takes 2 steps in, you're occupied as a blocker. And they will watch how many times, if you're a fan, like pay attention to how many times somebody will bluff a blitz, occupy a lineman, and now that lineman is doing nothing because that dude drops back into coverage, and now you know what I'm saying? Like, and now there's a one-on-one on the outside with Daniil Hunter because the guard is like frozen.
Right. And the smarts of these players is probably the most important thing, because you have to know, like positionally, you're asking guys to play different spots. Metellus and Harrison Smith literally are positionless players, right? But if they're not smart, and this is where I think that there's probably a problem with Cine, if they're not smart enough to know their exact assignment, a quarterback will make you pay. Yep. If they know their exact assignment, now what are the answers to the test? If you're a quarterback, you got no clue. So like there's so many things. The other thing I think is, and it's fun because this sport always evolves. Like every year it evolves and changes and new things come in. If you remember, Zimmer was famous for the A-gap blitz, right? The A-gap look. Oh, he's coming up the A-gap, but you don't know when. Because it eventually became like, figure it out. It's the A-gap. But I think what Flores does is he occupies every gap with the questions that Mike occupied the A-gap with. So like now you don't know anything about where guys are going to come from. And the best part is if you put different looks on film, like how many looks, how much film, game film, coach film, would you have to study of the Vikings defense to have a good grasp? It can't be just like the Saints game.
Yeah, and they're coming up with new things too, right? If something gets sort of okay, what they'll do too is they'll look and see like, okay, the Broncos, let's say, because the Bills were sending a ton of pressure last night. The Vikings play the Broncos next weekend. They'll look and see, okay, what did the Broncos offensive line struggle to figure out? Let's sort of replicate that, which is smart for any team to do. But then let's have our own stuff that we can sprinkle in if they do figure that out in the first quarter. On Harrison Smith, so he has shattered his previous career high in safety blitzes. 2018 under Mike Zimmer, he had 44. He had 43 in Zimmer's last year, 2021. Only 14 under Ed Donatel last year.
We talked about that. That's disgusting.
Now he has 56 so far this year, which is second to Josh Metellus. And here's another nugget. So we all know that the Vikings made a bold move 2 drafts ago in 2022 when they had the 12th overall pick, I believe it was. And they decided we're going to trade back 20 spots. Kyle Hamilton was on the board. He wound up going 14th, safety from Notre Dame. And so they wind up, if they wound up drafting Lewis Cine, they wanted to draft a safety. They drafted Lewis Cine at the back of the first round. They could have drafted Kyle Hamilton. So Hamilton has been one of the highest graded safeties in the NFL the last 2 years. He just had a pick 6 to start the game against Cleveland on Sunday.
Yep.
So obviously not great. Just one up like, oh, Kyle Hamilton's one of the best safeties in the NFL and Lewis Cine can't get on the field. But when you build NFL rosters, it's not always your first round pick is a stud, your second round pick, it's not always this linear thing. Cam Bynum is currently the 5th highest graded safety in the NFL this year. Out of 83 qualified safeties, Cam Bynum is the 5th highest graded safety. Josh Metellus is top 20, and he's generated the most pressures, hurries, and quarterback hits of any safety in the NFL. Oh, and Harrison Smith is your other safety.
Yep.
So it's this incredible strength of position for the Vikings, despite the fact that they completely botched what they did in the first round of 2022 looking for a safety.
Well, and credit to Spielman on the Bynum pick and especially the Metellus pick, which was a 6th round pick. Bynum was I believe, 4th round pick, drafted as a cornerback who they then moved to safety.
Yeah.
I think what this shows, I think far more than, I guess, the players, because, and Rick did make one of his best trades was to get back into the first round the year that he traded with Baltimore, ironically enough, and took Harrison Smith. I think the lesson here far more is what positions you take in the first round. So like, because yeah, you're right. If they had taken Hamilton, he'd be great. That'd be fantastic. But they've actually done just a fine job. So like the Cine pick hurts because you cannot say, well, it's just a first round pick, but it's fine. But that being said, I think what that whole thing shows more so is be careful about the positions, because we're talking about 2/3 of a safety group that plays all the time were third day picks.
Yeah. Yep. And obviously, if you're going to whiff on a first round pick, you might as well swing big for an edge, for an interior defensive guy. And when you have the 12th pick, just swing big, man. Unless you're getting now, if they would have gotten the Lions, future first round pick in that trade, which is what you were fighting, that's what you were upset about on draft night. In retrospect, you were probably right, but they have found safeties despite sort of whiffing there.
Yes.
Wow, nice little deep dive into the Vikings defense here.
Football.
I'm so impressed. I am so impressed with that aspect.
And it's just fun to watch. The Vikings are so much. Think about just from a fun factor, like a red zone channel factor. The Vikings last year with a really good quarterback, but like not the most dynamic, fun quarterback to watch. He was just more of a precision pocket passer guy, and then a defense that sat back and did nothing aggressive. They just wanted to keep everything underneath. And now it's like they've got the most ridiculously aggressive gambling defense in the NFL. And then they've got a quarterback running around, second most rushing yards by a quarterback behind Lamar Jackson. It's must-watch TV now.
And credit to O'Connell and Flores for this flexibility. In retrospect, the Donatel hire makes even less sense now than it did previously, because he clearly one, sold them a bill of goods, but two, then came in and said, because we know for a fact, O'Connell talked about this. He went to Ed and said, "Can you get more aggressive?" And Ed was like, "I don't know if I can get more aggressive." But how much fun is this to watch two of the most important coaches with this franchise? How much fun is this to watch them adapt and adjust in season? And for Kevin O'Connell to basically be putting plays in, and he I think talked about this during his Monday press conference. He talked about the fact that you have to be willing to adjust. Phil, we covered a coach in Brad Childress who was going to run his offense. And but do you remember, like he had
T-Jack, mobile, big.
I was going to say dumb question now. But what if T-Jack had gotten the right coach?
Yeah. Well, he did go to Seattle, and I think he had a little success for a minute. But if you would have put him under like Pete Carroll with a great defense, and
when drafted,
Pete Carroll is adaptable, right?
Yes. Yeah. But let's say T-Jack, instead of being probably overdrafted by the Vikings, I think it was the last pick of the second round. Let's say he goes in the 4th or 5th round, okay, and gets a chance somewhere. I'm not saying he'd be great. I'm saying this always makes me question, because mobile, strong arm. He had an arm. But Brad was basically like, "Well, you're running the West Coast." And do you remember Brad was fixated? Yeah. You just said it. Do you remember how fixated he was on the verbiage? Like, it's like you're paralyzing the poor kid.
Yeah, if it takes you a half hour to decipher a play. But so, yeah, I think it's a blast. It's one of the great coaching jobs in the NFL this year on both sides of the ball, and we'll see if it continues this weekend. We're going to go through our pigskin pecking order. We'll see if collectively we have the Vikings for the first time all year as a top 10 team in the NFL. We've got Judd guessing the PFF grades, and a shout out to our friends over at Livia. A new offer from Livia. You can get a jump start here. While everyone else is gaining weight the next 2 months, why don't you start to change your life early?
Just like Sports Dad did a couple of years ago, dropped 40 pounds. Look at the guy on the left, the guy on the right. What's the difference? 40 pounds lost. And as Phil just said, now there is a pre-Black Friday event. Join today, get 50% off your personalized program, lose up to 10 pounds in your first 2 weeks, and get this, folks, lose up to 20 pounds, guys, or more before 2024. So instead of being on the couch, gaining weight, it's the holidays. Oh man, I'm going to wait till January 1st. Don't wait till January 1st. Lose that weight now. On January 1st, you're going to be on a program that is going to work for you. Again, 50% off your personalized program. It's the best offer of the year. It runs, by the way, through this Friday. 855-GO-LIVEA, Livea.com, Livea Weight Control Centers. It works, Livea.com, inside or outside the state, because the whole thing can be done virtually. Guys, get a jump start on the weight loss today by visiting Livea.com.
Also, it doesn't mean that you can't enjoy a restaurant once in a while. Maybe head to 3Jack. Be responsible, okay? Head to 3Jack in the North Loop. It's indoor golf season here, Declan.
That's right. The weather's cooling down a little bit here in Minnesota, at least. And if you want to get some swings, and you can go to 3Jack. They got simulator bays. Or let's say maybe you got a holiday party. You got family coming to town. Hell, Black Wednesday is coming up. One of my favorite holidays of the entire year, where all your friends come together. How about you make your
Black Wednesday?
Black Wednesday.
Is that what we call it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Drinksgiving.
Drinksgiving, Black Wednesday.
I'm old. I have no idea anymore.
I've heard Drinksgiving and Blackout Wednesday. Maybe Blackout Wednesday is what we should call it.
Blackout Wednesday works. Regardless, I think if you want to, embarrass some of your friends, from that high school that are coming back, why don't you go to 3Jack, and make them swing a golf club. Whether you're good at golf or bad at golf, kind of like me, doesn't matter. You can go to 3jack.com. You can fill out their event inquiry page. They can host up from 15 guests to 250 guests. You could have a class reunion there if you really want to. Go to 3Jack and 3jack.com to learn more.
Drinksgiving, by the way, jumped the shark when everyone started to go out. When in like 1991, it was just great. And then I feel like now, it's become
your
St.
take
Patrick's
is that
Day.
Drinksgiving peaked in 1991? Is that your
No,
take?
it peaked in the 90s. It peaked in the 90s, but now it's like everyone, right, Dex? Everyone goes out. It's sort of a gong show now.
I haven't done it in the COVID era of my timeline. The last time I did it was 2019, but I haven't done it since. And to be honest, I'm kind of over that lifestyle of getting absolutely blasted the night before Thanksgiving. There was a stretch, man. I'm not exaggerating.
Guy moved to the suburbs.
I loved it back in the day. In the 90s, I got in some big trouble.
From 2014 to 2019, I did not spend a Thanksgiving not hungover. I did not remember what a sober Thanksgiving felt like for a good 8-year stretch. And now I've always loved Thanksgiving. So even whether I was in the best of spirits or worst of spirits, I could get by, pun intended. But I'm just glad that phase of my life is now mostly over.
Wow.
I hear you.
Guy turns 30 , moves to the suburbs. And
no, he's right.
I
did the same thing.
Adult on Thanksgiving.
I did the same thing. I can't tell you the amount of times I showed up at my poor parents' house late for Thanksgiving and had my head buried in my hands, just begging to go home.
Yeah.
And then you scoop about 2.5 plates of Thanksgiving food, and
food coma.
What's up with? I feel like a lot of people do Thanksgiving early afternoon, 1 or 2 o'clock.
Yes,
that's a little early for me.
Why do we deviate from normal feeding times? Why don't we just do a Thanksgiving dinner at 5 or 6 o'clock?
Because I think you don't want to eat lunch and then you're going to be full by 5. So
but if I'm going to eat at 1, I'm hungry again at 7.
I think I think 3 and 4 o'clock is the ideal Thanksgiving start time for the actual meal part of it. Because also you do need a time to digest that food. You can't just go from food to pie. You need a good 45-minute. You clear the table. Yeah. You clear the table.
Oh, you put a big dollop of Cool Whip on your pie, and you can do that. You
can't have
right
pie
away.
without Cool Whip. You do movies and stuff. There's a whole thing of Thanksgiving. Yeah, I did. And there's plenty of options to do on. That's my point. There's plenty of things to keep you busy on Thanksgiving. You don't have to sit down at 6 o'clock and have traditional.
They used to do Sci-Fi or some other channel used to do James Bond Marathon Weekend on Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. That's how I started watching Connery Bond movies. Twilight Zone Marathon.
We did Thanksgiving twice. We did Tom Hanks movies, and then the next year we did Colin Hanks movies. The colonization of Thanksgiving is actually what we called it. It was genius. We always try to do movie things on Thanksgiving.
Is Colin Hanks that good?
Yeah, Colin Hanks is good.
Okay.
Good director, too.
All right. Sounds good.
Are you offended that I?
No, I know. I just was curious. I didn't know what his catalog
Judd.
was. I didn't know what his catalog was. I'm a big Tom Hanks guy. That Thing You Do, fantastic.
Wait,
Forrest Gump.
Wait, what?
That Thing You Do is one of my favorite films.
It's a movie, but you just
it's not a movie. It's a
listed one of the
movie.
Greatest actors of our time.
Okay,
and you listed That Thing You Do as the first movie.
Forrest Gump, too long. Philadelphia, too long. I saw both of those in the theater.
Those are
I would
both
have loved
classic, great movies.
I know, and you know what? They would have been better if I had been in the edit bay, taking some time off both those films.
Here's what we need from you before the end of the week: your top 5 Tom Hanks movies.
Oh yes.
Oh sure.
Okay.
No problem.
And if you're going to edit out for length, I'm curious to see what this list is going to look
Philadelphia and Forrest Gump for sure.
Forrest Gump is a classic, dude. And
Yeah,
they break it up into
long.
like different chunks. So
Right, which is where it's too long. I would have taken a whole chunk out. Bang.
It's amazing. But the 1998 NFC Championship game, which was 4 hours of dread, is one of your favorite football games. A sporting event that goes 4 hours, you're fine with, but a movie that goes 2 hours.
No. I'm fine if it's a classic game. But you know what? A classic film is always better shorter. Gone with the Wind, I would have loved to chop that sucker up a little bit.
I'm with you on that one. Like, okay, we get it.
Well,
all right. There's a love story. It's a civil war. We're gonna.
It's a classic.
Yeah,
it's considered a classic, right?
We don't need an
better
intermission.
with the Zolgad touch.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one for sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, let's rank our top 10 NFL teams here. This is the Pigskin pecking order, where we all three of us rank 1 through 10, the best teams in the NFL. We also rank where the Vikings are, and so far this year, the Vikings have not showed up collectively as a top 10 team. I think, was it Declan that put him in the top 10? One of us had him top 10 last week.
I did not have them last week.
Had 10.
And I will say, this one was difficult because like 3 of the top 5 teams that we've had all week didn't play this week. Like there was a lot of good teams on the bye week, so it made it, in my opinion, the Pigskin pecking order kind of tough to fill out.
And some bad losses too.
Mm-hmm.
Some
and
very
bad
losses. Yep.
You're 100% right. All right.
So collectively, in aggregation, we have the Eagles, Chiefs, Ravens, 49ers as the top 4 teams. Now, I will tell you, digging into the data here, you guys each had the Eagles as the number 1 team in the NFL.
Yep.
I punished the 49ers for a few weeks. They were hurt during that stretch. They were fully healthy, playing at Jacksonville. Trent Williams was back. Deebo Samuel was back. And they beat the brakes off of Jacksonville.
They did.
I have the Niners back where they rightfully belong as the number 1 team in the NFL.
Oh, wow. I think that's a little aggressive. I did move them back up, but I think 1. I mean,
they're the most dominant team in the NFL when they're healthy.
I'm not gonna knock the Birds out when they didn't play.
This is me with Judd and Colin Hanks, the 49ers. Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not offended by it.
You take your Eagles.
Okay.
You take your Birds. I'll take my coal miners.
Fly,
and we will
Eagles fly on the road to victory.
My gold miners, I guess it'd be. Lions are 5. Dolphins are 6.
Yep.
Cowboys are 7. Jags 8. Cleveland Browns 9. And making their debut in the Pigskin pecking order for the first time all season.
There it is.
The Minnesota Vikings.
So
You guys both
put them in. Hold on a second. Hold on. I got it.
Yes. Hopping the Bengals. Hopping a bunch of other teams. So here's where we had the Vikings. I have them 9th. Judd has them 10th. Declan has them 10th. Only one other team received a vote. So we all had the Bengals out. We all took the Bills out, I believe.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I had the Bengals 4th, but then it's like, why are you losing a game at home to the Texans? So I put the Texans 10th, actually, and I also moved the Jaguars out. You can't lose a game at home like that and not have some punishment. So
I consider the Texans as well.
Texans are damn good, man. CJ Stroud is legitimate.
Yeah.
There's some fraudulent 6-3, 6-4 teams too. In my the Steelers, I have no idea that the Steelers are winning games. No idea.
They always do, Dex.
Mike Tomlin,
it's ridiculous. They have a minus 26 point differential. They're 6-3. Yep. It's just very bizarre to me.
Yeah, it's Mike Tomlin ball. Just muddy it up and find a way to kick a field goal in the end, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it, boys. The Minnesota Vikings making their debut in the Pigskin pecking order. Judd guesses the PFF grades today, presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. It's like having a great offensive line for your business. Just frontline protection, risk management. You can elevate your business by managing risk. And that's what Federated specializes in for over 100 years. They're based in Owatonna, Minnesota. They are one of us. They were just recently named by Forbes a top 10 place to work in the state of Minnesota as well. So check them out if you're a business owner, if you're a next generation business owner, maybe taking over for your parents, whatever. Federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. All right, it is time for Judd to guess the PFF grades.
All right.
We'll start with the defensive side of the ball. You get 3 incorrect guesses, 3 strikes to guess the top 3 and bottom 3. We're looking for at least 20 snaps is where I'm drawing the line today.
Okay.
Oh.
At least 20 snaps.
All right. We're changing that a little bit.
I think it would. Here's why. Like, Troy Dye is above the 15 snap mark, and I don't think you would have guessed Troy Dye. I thought that was usually we set it at 15.
Right.
He came in as a backup, and that would have been a sneaky one. So I'm going to put the line at 20 snaps for better or worse.
Okay. Fine. Top 3.
That thing you do, amazing.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
You're so like
Liv
defiant over
Liv
some
Tyler
things.
is so good because it's Tom Hanks's film.
okay.
It's his baby.
Right.
He like wrote it.
That's great. That's awesome.
He's fantastic in it.
Awesome.
It's
I
his
like
seen
it.
project.
I enjoyed
It's
I
a-
enjoyed
it's a
it
good
as a
movie.
movie.
It's a passion project.
It wouldn't be the
It's a
first Tom
passion
Hanks movie I
project.
think of our list. You know?
It's a passion project for Tommy. All right. Top of the list on defense. Daniil Hunter, top 3.
Daniil Hunter did not make the top 3. Strike 1.
PFF's out of line. He lost an interception, but his wife was there in a great story. Saw her first game finally. Feel like he flashed quite a bit. Cam Bynum.
He was the 3rd highest graded defensive player, 69.1 grade out of 100.
If Daniil Hunter didn't make it from the line, I don't know who. I mean, I guess interior. Linebackers, you said Dye, but he doesn't qualify in snaps. I'm trying to think if Ivan Pace flashed. All right. I'll stand in the defensive backfield. Harrison Smith.
Harrison Smith, unfortunately, did not crack the top 3.
Okay. Oh, he had a pick.
Strikes.
He had a pick, and he almost had 2. And he played quite a bit. Mekhi Blackman.
He was the 2nd highest graded
There you
defensive
go,
player.
Judley.
Got to run the table
Pecking.
here. We're looking for the top defensive player and the 3 worst.
All right. Who else from the defensive backfield can I isolate, hone in on? Caleb Evans?
He was the top,
There he is.
81.3
He
He had a
for
really
a
good game.
Caleb Evans.
Byron Murphy Jr. did not. I feel like he had a couple of plays that got him dinged. He missed
He had a couple
tackle.
moments.
And
though.
well, he got beat on the touchdown by Jameis. That was a great throw and a great catch. But he also got right before that, he missed a tackle, which it was a bad missed tackle.
He's gotten better he's looked better the last few games than he did the first 6-7 games of the season.
Okay. All right, the bottom.
Yep, you got 1 strike left, so this is going to have to be a feat.
Yeah, this is going to have to be incredible. Out of nowhere. Harrison Phillips.
He was the worst,
He's in.
49.4.
He's in.
He's just a guy.
He's alive.
He's just a guy.
Yeah, he's an NFL
fine.
player.
Yeah, he's fine.
Just a guy. Okay, you know what? He grades so poorly most of the time. It's clear PFF hates him. Potential vendetta for him. Byron Murphy Jr.
He didn't have a great day, but he wasn't bottom 3, 59.4.
All right, well,
The
that's
other
it.
2 were Jordan Hicks was actually the 2nd worst grade. He was really bad in coverage. They dinged him in coverage, a 39 coverage grade. And then Patrick Jones was also in that mix. All right, same thing for the offense. We are looking for the 3 best and worst players according to PFF, and we'll draw the same line, I guess, 20 snaps.
All right, I'm going with the hero for the past 2 games. I'm going with one of the top players, Joshua Dobbs.
Joshua Dobbs was not one of the 3 highest graded players.
What?
PFF, did they shut down and not work and not actually watch this game? Okay, my next guess, TJ Hawkinson, obviously with the unbelievable first half.
93.3 grade, the highest graded player.
All right, another guy, and I didn't see the grades, but I saw his day was flawless in a stat that was put out on X. Brian O'Neill, who I don't think gave up a pressure.
Brian O'Neill was the 3rd highest graded player, 74.5.
All right, let's stay with the tackles. Christian Darrisaw.
He was not. He had a good game, but he was not. 2 strikes.
All right, I'm gonna go to the show, The Trenches with Boone yesterday, and throw out a name of a guy I didn't even think about until Boone raved about him. Josh Oliver.
Josh Oliver's pretty reliably in the 3 most weeks.
Yeah.
He was a 75 grade out of 100. So you got the 3, and you got 1 strike left to get the 3 worst graded offensive players who played at least 20 snaps.
Alexander Madison.
3rd worst, 56.8.
Look at this guy.
It's good performance.
Offense. I feel like not a lot of the receivers got to the snap count, and Jordan Addison would not be a bottom 3. Brandon Powell, I feel like, does the right thing, so I don't think PFF likes to ding him. And now I'm thinking of snap counts. Who actually had enough snap counts? I mean, the tight ends had good days, right? I'm guessing Munt didn't get to the snap count.
Do you want me to list just for fairness, list the players left that had enough snaps?
Sure, that'd be good.
Okay. The ones you haven't guessed are Ed Ingram, Jordan Addison, Garrett Bradbury, Ty Chandler, Brandon Powell, Dalton Reisner, Jalen Naylor.
Okay. First game of the season, probably some flaws. The man I believe KOC calls Speedy, Jalen Naylor.
He's in the 3, 55.7. He's looking for 1 more. 1 strike, 1 more. Can he do it, folks?
Come on, Judd. Come on.
Can he do it?
Ed Ingram.
Ed Ingram. Easy Ed. No, Ed Ingram had a good game, 73.1 grade. Dalton Reisner was the lowest graded player, 53.8 in this one. For the
really?
Vikings. So, yeah, Dalton Reisner. Hey, nice job, though. Pretty good job by you.
The shove didn't get him some love?
Yeah, no love for the shove and kick. I love the kick. The kick is awesome.
When a big man, when his leg flies above his head on a kick, he ain't making my bottom 3 list.
+1.
No,
+1.
He deserved better fate here from PFF. So, all right, boys, that's a wrap on this Tuesday episode of Purple Daily presented by Quick Trip. Daily Vikings entertainment. We got predictions for you tomorrow and an accountability session. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.